the show going, man.
Hurry up, hurry up! Hurry up!
Hurry up! Hurry up!
Come on now. We're gonna have action soon. Right here. It ain't going nowhere.
Boy, your ass got some technique, boy. You ain't show me that this summer.
Hey, Wildcat.
Ball at the 5, 3rd down and 2.
That was bad.
Let's go have some fun, bro. We ain't got to talk about too much.
He wasn't playing the ball.
It's holding.
Cliff. The Cliff. How is that not called?
That ain't gonna call a damn thing.
What is the delay for? He's standing right there.
He's taking a card out. He's a piece of paper.
It's that close? Dear Lord.
Hello and welcome. We are the Aussie Guys. I'm AJ. Here with me is G. And G was just saying, you're not going to do that silly countdown thing. And I just went, boom.
Oh, man. God, mate, can we find one that doesn't start at 30? Can we just do a 10? God.
Oh, man. I honestly should just make one that goes from 10. I could do it, but, you know, it's just a question of every time I always think of it when I'm doing that. And I should make one that goes to 10. Anyway.
We should put, like, just quick clips of, like, catches or something in between each.
I could.
And then we get shut down by YouTube again.
That's right.
Get 2 strikes.
But listen, we do have a special guest here, G, before and you guys were talking about the Super Bowl, being a Falcons fan, G. You know, you're on a road to hurt. Talking Super Bowl with a Patriots fan, but we're very pleased to have Pat Lane here. He's the co-host of the Pat Nations pod and a writer for Pat's Pulpit as well, and one of the guys in my Scott Fish Bowl division as well this year, the Coldplay division. So shout out to any Coldplay participants who are tuning in. But Pat, a warm welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
And thanks for making me feel a lot better with the chat before we started about, making me feel as good as I can about what happened.
But this is the first...
So before we start,
please, Jim.
Scott Fishbowl, your squad quickly. Are you happy with it? Not happy? Did it go your way?
I was happy with it. I thought it went well. I took some. I reached on a few guys, but overall, I had the 3 pick. I went Kyler at 3, and I went Rodgers in the second round. I mean, to me, Aaron Rodgers this year is a steal, like a steal. If you're getting him in the second or third round. Now, this is a super flex league, so it's a little bit different. You're starting 2 quarterbacks, which is why I was going after quarterback early. Rodgers is playing this year. I don't know if it's going to be in Green Bay or if it's going to be in Denver or if he's going to get traded somewhere else. He's playing. So, wherever he's playing, he's going to put up big numbers. Getting him at the end of the second round is a steal in a super flex league. So, Aaron Rodgers is a guy that if I'm drafting right now, if I'm drafting before the season starts, people are afraid of him. Go after him. Go after him because, he's going to be there. So, I liked him. I will possibly never recover Malia, who is in our league as well. The pick before me took Jonnu Smith in the 9th round, and that's like my guy.
Oh, okay.
It's a tight end. It's a tight end premium league.
I thought you were going to say the pick before you in the second round. I'm going, my God, what?
No.
Ninth. We're talking about
in the 9th round. Okay. And I'm sitting there I was like, all right, it's a little bit of a reach, but I'm going to take him early. He was going in the 10th, 11th, 12th in most leagues, and I'm like, but I'm going to take him early because I want to make sure I get him. And I'm just sitting there waiting, and she takes him the pick before me, and I was just like, no. I was like, that's it. I was like, I quit. I'm done.
Look, but we can talk.
The 15th or something like on the turn,
right.
Maybe the 5th.
That's what I'm saying.
I took back-to-back tight ends. I just thought, bang, I'm going to get 2 tight ends, and Smith was one of them. So, geez, he went early in yours. Mm-hmm. Damn.
Yep.
But we're not talking about tight ends. We will be.
We will.
We will.
Well, see, the question I had, but it's a question really for later, is Jonnu versus Henry,
Right.
And obviously you can see, where I come from. So I'll sort of, I'll put my little ribbon on the Hunter Henry bandwagon, personally. But that's another topic. Let's get there. Let's get there. So first of all, I mean, the Patriot, let's just give you your props. I mean,
The elephant in the room.
The elephant in the
room. Brady, Belichick.
Yeah.
Right.
That is the elephant in the room for sure.
Is it because of who? We saw what one did, and we saw what happened to the other.
Right.
So, where's the pendulum swing?
Well, so this is the thing, and it's interesting when you say that because Brady obviously won a Super Bowl last year. Here's what I'll say about Tampa. Tampa went 7-9 the year before with a quarterback who turned the ball over 38 times. 38 times. And they went 7-9. Brady went in and turned the ball over like 12.
Yep.
And so you're guaranteed to win a few more games just based on that. I mean, you're talking about 25 less turnovers. It's insane, right? So essentially 2 less turnovers per game. And so, of course, you're going to win. You're bound to win more games. Now, Brady performs in the biggest moments. So in the Super Bowl, in the NFC Championship game, where people say, he threw 3 interceptions. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Like he had a better EPA per play than Aaron Rodgers did for the NFC Championship game. So like he performs in big moments. He's always done that. I think Arians. I was very concerned that Bruce Arians is a bad coach. I don't think he's a very good coach. But if you noticed, halfway through the year, they kind of switched back to the Patriots system a little bit, and Brady was like, "All right, I don't mind throwing the ball downfield, but like let's run a little bit more. Maybe we'll run some play action. Like that might help, And so they did that. He's the best player in the history of the NFL and possibly in the history of sports, but team sports. But
you don't get outside of America very much, do you?
I don't know.
Listen.
It's probably still true, G.
It's tough. I mean, international play is tough. Like when you talk about some of the great soccer players of all time and everything like that. But so it's American sports. How about that?
Okay. World sports.
But the thing for me is that what Bill did to me is just more impressive. Like he's the guy who built everything around Tom. And not only that, but to go 7-9 last year with that roster, with that quarterback who couldn't even throw the football, you went 7-9, you got stuffed at the goal line against Seattle, you fumbled inside the 30-yard line against Buffalo, and you played in one of, I would say, the most ridiculous, the game against Kansas City, okay? You had no Cam Newton. You found out on Saturday for a Monday game you were getting no Cam Newton. You flew into Kansas City on Monday morning to play the game on Monday morning, flying in with 2 different planes of players because people that were contacts with Newton and people that weren't. Like, it was insane. No game. I would argue that no game has, like, that may be the most difficult circumstances that's ever been played with a bad team going against the defending Super Bowl champions who also went to the Super Bowl that year, and they still almost won the game. So, like, that's all coaching, And so
is it fair to say that half the team is good and half the team was bad? Because your defense, mate, right. You do it every year, no matter who's missing. Yeah. Mate, the Patriots D is legit every year.
This year, if they finish as a top 10 scoring defense this year, it'll be the 20th year in a row that they finish as a top 10 scoring defense. Wow. So they just, and like you said, guys go in, guys come out. Doesn't matter who's there. They find a way. I mean, for God's sakes, in 2011, Julian Edelman was playing slot corner. Earthwind Moreland was starting at cornerback for them, and they made the freaking Super Bowl. Like, it's just like, stuff like that. It's mind blowing to see what Bill has done. I put Bill at like 51%. Like it's close. I mean, it's close. Yeah. Here's the thing, right? If they're different, if they're separated from each other, Bill still probably wins a Super Bowl or 2. Tom probably still wins a Super Bowl or 2. But they never become what they are without each other. They just can't. Like it's just not. You have to have a coach. Look at Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is great, but what happens in the playoffs? Like his coaching isn't great. His defense is fine, but his decision making kind of takes a hit at the end. So those are the types of things where it's like, without the coaching, without the other players on the team, a quarterback can only get you so far.
Yeah. There's no Simon and Garfunkel without either Simon or Garfunkel.
Right.
Basically. Yeah.
Paul Simon had some good albums, G.
Well, one was a writer and the other one was the singer, basically.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true. That's true. Right. But look, I was going to say in the history of world sport, I don't know that we've had a team that's had this much sustained success. Like, it's very, very difficult to do. And for you guys to go, well, third, you didn't even finish last in the AFC East,
right,
courtesy of the Jets. But I mean, you finished third. That was your bad year at 7-9.
Right.
And obviously,
and in a sport too, AJ, that has a salary cap. Like, let's not talk about world soccer because you can have whoever you want. It seems like basketball is exactly the same. Do they actually have a salary cap in basketball? They just move teams around whenever they feel like. Guys just keep shifting all the time to make super teams. So as far as salary cap sports go, I can't think of one that's long.
What's more insane, like they didn't win the division twice in that span from 2001, but from 2001 to 2019. They never finished with no one in the AFC East ever finished with a better record than them. So like they lost the division twice, but it was because of like tiebreakers. They finished with the same record and lost it because of tiebreakers. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. Like 20 years of no team in the division ever finished with a better record than them. I mean, it's complete insanity that, that they were able to do that for that long. And that's really the key to brought in a bunch of no-name guys and turned them into superstars. Like, that's just and they did it over and over and over again. And it's just like, I don't know how they continue to do it, but it's just like they did for a long time, and yeah, it's unfortunate because now it's like, we want to try to restart and it's like, there's no restarting. Like maybe they'll be good again, but we'll never see anything like that ever again from anybody. Certainly, not the Patriots.
Speaking of which, let's start with free agency because, man, I mean, for whatever reason, there was a fire lit under Bill Belichick this offseason, and this isn't all the names, but it's the main names. We were talking before I hit record about the two tight ends, obviously Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. And I think, was it Hunter Henry who was the first of the two?
Jonnu was the first.
Jonnu was the first.
Yep.
And we thought that signing happened. Oh, they're done. They've got their tight end. And then Hunter Henry dropped. Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar, who, whatever you say about them, well, look, the Patriots have not had a good record of drafting wide receivers, and these are guys that can contribute, and I actually kind of like Nelson Aguilar. Kendrick Bourne is underrated. Matt Judon, nice addition for the defense. Devon Godchow, who's pretty decent. I think he came from the Finns, D-tackle.
Yeah.
Jalen Mills, a defensive back, among the signings, but certainly very, very busy in free agency. What are your thoughts?
I love it. I mean, I love the aggressiveness. They don't typically have a ton of cap space, usually, and they had a ridiculous amount of cap space this year, and they said, you know what, we're going to go out and spend it, and they did, and they also didn't have a super talented team. Like, they just, there's no way around that, and the tight end position is one where they ignored it for too long. They had Gronk. Gronk is a great player, but, like, you have to address a position, especially a position like that, where almost every rookie tight end stinks. I mean, Devin Asiasi, last year as a rookie, had 36 receiving yards. He was 6th among rookie tight end receiving yards with 36. Like, so that position just struggles out the gate. They always, all of them do, so it's like, you can't expect to draft two guys and then all of a sudden they're good the first year. It just doesn't work. So you have to draft that position, especially before it's a problem. And they ignored that position, and then, they end up where they are. So they say, okay, let's go out and get these two guys. And I think they targeted Jonnu. I think what happens, they targeted Jonnu and they said, hey, if we can get Hunter Henry too, sure. What the heck? And when he was still available, they just said, all right, like, let's go. Let's get it done. And I think what it came down to was that I think they wanted both, but they really targeted Jonnu. So they went out and got him, and they said, listen, we want you too. And Henry was like, let's do it. And so I love the idea of pairing the two of them together. I also think Devin Asiasi as that third tight end, that blocking tight end, is going to take a step forward this year. I really do. So, like, it's going to be interesting to see if they can roll out, a 3 tight end set. I mean, we're been messing around, but like, I mean, they could roll out 31 personnel, 3 tight ends and 1 running back, and they could come out in an empty backfield. I mean, it's just like like that's. So you look at it and say, like, this is what we could do. Or, like, I think Dalton Keene, who they drafted at the tight end, is going to play fullback this year. So, like, they can come out in 32 personnel with 0 wide receivers and come out with an empty backfield. And then you're like, well, now what do we do? So they're gonna be interested with this. And one of the guys in the chat said something about McDaniels, not being a great offense coordinator. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I think he is. I mean, I think it's pretty, it's the Brady effect, right? We see Tom Brady and we say, well, Brady's unbelievable. Like, he's so good, he makes everyone better, which he does, of course. But you still got to have the guy to call the plays. You still got to have the guy to, like, know what he's doing and put you in the right situation in the right moments. And McDaniels has done that over and over and over again. And of course, has he had bad sequences? Of course he has. Like, every coach has. But, like, I think overall he's a very good offensive coordinator, and he's going to have a lot of fun with this guy, with this team, I should say. So I'm really excited about where they're going. I love the defensive signings as well. Jude, I think, is going to be awesome.
Yeah,
linebacker goes from a spot that was a travesty, just a complete disaster last year, and now they have real players at linebacker. They bring back Kyle Van Noy, they bring in Judon, they get Hightower back, like. They're going to be good this year defensively. Good last year, like you said, defensively, but they're going to be really good this year defensively. I'm excited for them. I think they're going to be a top 5 to 10 defense in the NFL this year.
Oh, no doubt. And we've lost G for a second here. No doubt he'll be checking back in a second. Let's go to the draft, because you talked about the defense, and obviously there's some draft picks there. But let's talk about the draft as a whole. And I know that G will probably want to talk about Cam Newton versus Mac Jones. But it's a really nice draft. I mean, I'm not going to go beyond round 5, but
no, sure.
Mac Jones at 15. I love that pick. And there's a lot of talk pre-draft about Mac Jones potentially even going, very high to say the Niners or someone like that. And I don't know, in this particular quarterback class, he got a lot of sort of very unfair criticism for just being an accurate pocket quarterback,
Yes.
Christian Barmore, who in so probably admittedly a weak D tackle class, is still the best D tackle in this rookie class. And you pick him up in the second. It's a fantastic pick. Ronnie Perkins in the third, who's an edge. Ramondre Stevenson in the fourth, a really nice pick, although your backfield is, the Patriots' backfield's always interesting, but, yeah.
Yeah.
And a pretty underrated guy, Cameron McGrone, in the fifth, who's going to redshirt. But, I mean, if he was healthy, would have gone much, much higher. There's no doubt. And so you've got a guy that you're going to be able to sort of draw on. He's going to be a contributor, no doubt, in a year's time. But how did you feel about the draft?
I really liked it a lot. I really did. I mean, we were in the camp of we went live for Thursday night, and some of the Pats Pulpit guys, and we were all pissed. Like, we all wanted Fields. I wanted Fields. Everyone wanted Fields, and instead of Fields, we get Mac Jones. And I'm okay with, like, the more I watch Mac Jones, and it's funny because, like, in the back of my head, I'm sitting there thinking, like, Mac really kind of fits the offense better than Fields does. The way McDaniels runs the team, he fits a little bit better. And so I'm kind of like, I don't know. But the thing is that they gave up, ultimately they gave up nothing to get Mac Jones, right? They didn't give up, the Bears gave up a first round pick next year to move up and take Fields. So if they had to give up 15 and their first round pick next year to move up and get Fields, now that's a lot, right? Now there's a lot riding on that guy. Obviously, there's a lot riding on Mac Jones too, but you're not giving up any future assets, right? If he comes in and stinks, then, it's like, okay, like, yeah, we wasted a pick, but, like, we wasted one pick,
Yeah. He just
fell
to you.
It doesn't happen, of course.
He just fell in your laps. Yeah.
And that's, you just sit there looking and no one moves up for him. I think a lot of the criticism that he got was due to the fact that people thought San Fran was taking him at 3. And so they were looking at it from the lens of, is Mac Jones the third best player in the draft? Is Mac Jones worth trading 3 first-round picks to go up and get? Which I don't think he is. But if you're sitting there at 15 and he falls into your lap, I think it's a good pick. And I think he could be a good pro, just because I think what he does well is what works in the NFL. Like he reads the defense well. He makes quick, accurate throws. Like that's just what he does, And so he's accurate. He was the most accurate quarterback between 0 and 20 yards. Like that's what he did. He was very good.
He's Alex Smith.
What'd he say?
He's Alex Smith.
Right. And honestly, like the thing about Alex Smith is that, he went number 1 overall. So like people look at his career and say like he sucked, but like he was actually pretty good. Like he wasn't an elite quarterback, but he's a pretty darn good quarterback, And so if you have a guy like Alex Smith and you have a team around him that can compete, you saw it with the Chiefs. You have a team around them that can compete, you're going to make the playoffs and perhaps even go deep depending on who you have coaching and who, who's around him. So, so we'll see, right? People comparing him to Kirk Cousins and listen, Kirk Cousins is a pretty good player, man. He's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, so like if you can get that, look at that. It was perfect timing. It's really kind of interesting, so I like it. I love trading up for Barnmore. I mean, how many mock drafts did we see, right, where Barnmore was getting taken at 15 by the Patriots?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
And then for him to drop all the way out of the first round, and they traded up for him, but they had 1 million picks, so they weren't going to be able. Right. He is underrated every year. It's true.
Yeah.
They had 1 million picks that they weren't going to be able to take. There's too many guys on the roster, so like they couldn't draft all those players anyways. So to trade up for him is great. I love the Ronnie Perkins pick at 96. I think it's a great pick. And then Stevenson for me is interesting. Patriots backs typically get redshirted. It happened with Damian Harris. It's happened with James White. It happened with Shane Vereen. It's like it happens. They didn't do that with Sony Michel for a multitude of reasons. I wonder if they'll do it with him or not. I think they probably will, but they might not. So I don't know. Maybe he has a chance of playing this year. But it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens with him. McGrone, as you mentioned, I love McGrone.
Yeah.
I love the way Cam McGrone plays. He's like an athletic linebacker. He won't play this year, like you mentioned, because of the ACL injury, but like get him in the system, get him a year. Let's see what happens. And then he'll come back fully healthy next year. I love that. The guy that I'm watching, the guy that I'm circling is Trey Nixon. So Trey Nixon was their 7th round pick, wide receiver from UCF. Ernie Adams, who is kind of like the guy behind the guy. He's like Belichick's right-hand man. He retired after the draft this year. And kind of in celebration of his career, Bill let him make the final draft pick. Okay. So, and we've, the video of it is pretty cool. Bill kind of stands up and he's like, hey, Ernie's, last draft pick with the team and blah, 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 this and that. And he goes, I'm going to let Ernie make the pick. And Ernie's like, oh, really? Okay. Walks over to the board, 3 seconds, like 0 seconds of lead time. Walks over the board, like, yoink, that's the guy I'm taking. And it was Trey Nixon. And so, like, to me, I'm like, I'm not betting against Ernie Adams. And especially if he's his guy. So we'll see. I have high hopes for Trey Nixon.
He's not related to him in any way?
He's not. No, he's not.
Okay,
not that I know of, at least. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see if he turns out to be a player or not. But I'm kind of putting all my eggs into the Ernie Adams basket on that one.
Very nice.
I find it really weird though. With you listen to supporters talk about the team and you talk about the coach and who they draft. And, it's like, I don't know why they drafted him. But for some reason, all the Patriots fans that I know, mate, whatever Bill does is, mate, Bill knows what he's doing.
Right.
Do you fall into that category or?
In Bill we trust.
Yeah, it's just really, really bizarre. It just seems to be the Patriots is just like, no, Bill knows what he's doing. Don't worry about all the wide receivers he's taken and stuff like that haven't worked out. But no, it's not Bill's fault. That was they just didn't put him when they were there. Or
I mean, it's tough. You're totally right. You're totally right. Like he's made some bad decisions. I mean, like I posted a thing yesterday about Aaron Dobson taking Aaron Dobson over Keenan Allen. They took Chad Jackson over. They traded up for Chad Jackson over Greg Jennings. Like,
every team does that though.
Every team. Oh yeah, and they took N'Keal, which I still like. Someone needs to explain the N'Keal Harry pick to me. It makes zero sense. But they took N'Keal Harry over AJ Brown and DK Metcalf. Like I just don't. Now I know Hollywood Brown went too, but Hollywood at least has like a specific set of skills.
Sure.
To quote Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
But like, but like N'Keal doesn't have that. Like it's like if you wanted a big tough receiver, get DK. He's faster. Like I don't understand. If you wanted like an all around receiver,
if you want an outside guy with speed,
right. Yeah, it just doesn't. So I never understood that. I never understood that pick from the beginning. Of course, I wanted him to be good. I thought he'd be good. But like the thing is that what's interesting about it, and this is where it kind of gets funny, is that it seems like every year that Bill has one of those horrible misses, he winds up doing something even better, like in undrafted free agency. So like in 2016, they draft Duke Dawson, or 2016, 17, I don't know what, it doesn't matter what year it was. They draft Duke Dawson in the second round. Absolute garbage. Terrible player. But the same year, they get John Jones as an undrafted free agent who's one of the best slot corners in the NFL now. So like, they draft N'Keal Harry, Jacoby Myers ends up as the UDFA. So like, it's like every year where they screw something up in the draft, they wind up getting guys, Malcolm Butler was an undrafted free agent. So like they just wind up getting guys and they fit in the system and they work. And so it's just kind of how things happen to work like that. And again, like, would I like him to be better at drafting D-backs? Yes. I think last year he kind of broke that. I think Kyle Duggar's a stud.
Yeah.
Which is good. I think some of the players, like Deron Harmon's a perfect example of that. Like he reached for Harmon and people were like, Harmon stinks. I think Deron Harmon was one of the most important players in the second dynasty of the Patriots that gets zero credit from anyone, but like was a good player. He just wasn't, he's not Ed Reed, but he was like an important piece to the team that like allowed them to do other things because he was playing the deep half. And so, it's just, it's funny how you see some of this stuff. Of course, I'd like him to do better, but again, like, I mean, at a certain point, it's like, the guy in 2001, he brought in a bunch of no-name players. Mike Vrabel, complete no-name, Patriots Hall of Famer. Like he did the same thing with Rob Ninkovich. Like it's just like these guys come in and they're no names elsewhere, and they come in and they're great here. And it's just like he just does it over and over and over and over again for 20 years. And it's just kind of like, well, at a certain point, it's like he knows what he's doing. And even if he gets a few wrong, he's going to get enough right that they're going to be good. So it's kind of like until he proves us wrong that he doesn't have it anymore, it's just kind of like we just kind of have to go along with it,
He seems to be very good at drafting good players, but he drafts the personality. He drafts the type of person that they are. And I think that's why they work in what everybody says is the Patriots system. Like you hear it all the time. Guys come in, it's, oh my God, it's just like no other. Everything's so business-like.
Yep.
And he drafts the guys who are business-like players.
Right.
And that's all he needs. That's all he needs.
Yeah. Well, and you get Cassius Marsh, who was with the Patriots for 2 weeks and is still talking shit about the Patriots 3 years later. It's like, dude, just stop. Just go away. Like, nobody cares anymore, But it's like, oh, you're going to come on and trash the Patriots? Sure, you can come on our podcast. Like, you're a no-name for the Steelers? Yeah, sure, let's do it. It's like he just stays relevant because he's talking shit about the Patriots. And it's like, that's, I guess, it's a game you can play, I suppose, if you want. But yeah, most people, I mean, the thing about Bill is that most players love him. It's just like you got to put in the work. And if you don't want to put in the work, then it's not going to go well for you here, Bill
Belichick is my old man. Like my old man ran 100-odd workers.
Right.
The slackers couldn't stand my old man. Couldn't stand him. The guys that came to work and worked and just did their job, that mate loved him.
Right.
Would have done anything for him. And it's exactly like Bill. If you're not here to put in, you're not going to get on with him.
Right. Right.
So plug to my old man. Good on you, Joey. Now we were talking about Mac Jones. Have we spoke about the quarterback position when I dropped out? Or is that what we were talking about? Or we're talking about the draft?
Just talked about the draft, and I knew I couldn't step on your toes because you're going to talk about quarterbacks, so I'd get in trouble.
Okay, so let's talk about the quarterback situation. Yes. Now, AJ knows how I feel about Cam Newton. Cam Newton's been shot for good 3 years. His arm hasn't been, it wasn't good before the injury. and you can't play that position and do what he does without shortening your career. So we saw him play 15 games last year, went through the whole COVID thing, mate. He 3 for 8 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, rushed for 12 TDs and almost 600 yards.
Yeah.
But only in 5 games last year did they go over 200 yards passing. And I know you're saying that you look what they did with, what they had, but you're not going to go much further if you can't pass, more than 200 yards in 5 games.
Right.
Now, you go and, as you spoke about, you drafted Matt Jones. Well, mate, he did. He fell in your lap. Like, Bill must have been. Even the dog probably made that pick because the dog's smart enough to take that one. Pocket passer, accurate, smart, average arm.
Right.
So how does it play out? Like we've already seen so far in what we've seen of OTAs that Mac Jones looks, I know it's you only get clips of stuff, but he looks more at home already than what Cam does.
Well, it's tough. So this is the hard thing is that we just talked about Bill loving chemistry and all those things. And Cam is incredibly well respected. The guys love him. At the end of the day, though, you need a guy that could win. Mm-hmm. And I'm just not sure if Cam is that guy. Now, he might be, right? Maybe last year was a product of him having no offseason with the team and then getting COVID and then not, that's possible. Do I think he'll be better this year? I do think he'll be better. I mean, he can't be worse than he was last year throwing the ball. So, I think he'll be a little bit better. But, the question is, how much can he do? That's a good one. But how much can he do? That's going to be better than Mac Jones. And Mac, the big question with Mac, what Brady did so well, right, and does still so well, is you walk to the line, he knows what you're doing. Before the play starts, he knows what you're doing. And that comes from pre-snap reads. But what it also comes from is post-snap, because so many of these defenses shift at the snap of the ball where they're going to show you one thing and then change into something else, right? And so with film study, you can pick up on some tells and kind of think, okay, maybe this is going to happen. So you know a little bit about what's happening pre-snap. But you also need to know what happens post-snap. So those are the two biggest things for Mac Jones. If he can figure out pre-snap and post-snap and get elite at that, then he can be successvel. But the question to me is how long is that going to take? Is he going to be ready to do that week 1 of the season? I don't know. Bill Belichick hates the Jets more than anything else in this world. I think second on that list is rookie quarterbacks. He hates rookie quarterbacks. He hates them. He hates them. He kills rookie quarterbacks when he plays against them because he gives them problems, because playing against NFL defense is not easy. And so I'd be surprised if Mac was the week 1 starter. Now, if Cam looks the way Cam did last year, and he looks that way this year, then Mac's going to be the week 1 starter. Because you can't put that out there again. You can't. And so you say, okay, fine, we roll Mac Jones. If Mac Jones isn't absolutely 100% isn't ready, then I guess you're starting Brian Hoyer. You can't roll out Mac Jones, Cam Newton with what he did last year. You can't do it.
And what week is there's a game? Is it week 4? You know who I'm talking about? Who's coming to town?
Do.
Yep.
Yep.
So, do you really want Mac Jones under center for that?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a turning point to me. That's the turning point because after you play them, you're in Houston.
Ooh.
I mean, so to me, that's the spot. If Cam comes in and struggles the first few games, you say, okay, let's give him the Tampa game because Tampa is going to just, if Cam's playing the way he's playing, they're going to kill us because their defense is great. They have Brady. Brady's going to come in, ready to throw. He's going to throw 600, whatever, right? So it's like, they're going to – and the crazy part about that game is that I'm sure you've seen this. Maybe you haven't, but Brady right now is like – I think it's like 800 or 900 yards away from the all-time passing record.
Oof.
They play the Patriots in week 4. So, he's slated right now to pass that record during the week 4 game, which would be pretty cool.
Oh,
it'd be pretty cool for that to happen. So,
mate, if he comes out of the box and throws for like 700 yards in the first 2 games, they're just going to run the ball for the next game.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah. I'm not passing until I get back to Foxborough.
Right. Oh yeah, it's so we'll see, but it is fun, and so there's definitely some things to look forward to. I mean, look, if I'm the Patriots, I'm starting the season with Cam Newton. And then I'm shifting to Mac Jones at some point. And that week 5 is kind of what I have circled, because it's after the Tampa game, and you give Cam 4 games, and you see what he can do. And if Cam can't do it, like I don't know, it's tough. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, man, it's gonna be interesting. I'm actually in the middle of writing an article right now about how I have no idea who the starting quarterback's going to be, but I know the backup quarterback's going to be Jarrett Stidham. And so because to me, the biggest thing to me is that Mac is not the backup this year. Cannot have Mac as the backup, because imagine we're in Foxborough and Cam Newton stinks. Mac Jones is sitting on the sideline. The fans are going to be going nuts. Put Mac Jones in the game, do this, do that, right? The reason you're starting Cam Newton is because A, you think Newton's better, or B, Mac isn't ready. Those are the only reasons you're starting him. So now what? Cam gets hurt, or you got to pull Cam. Now his first appearance as a pro is like in the middle of a game that Cam opportunity possible to be successful, on the field. And so if that means that we have to bench Cam, then fine. The next week Mac starts, but he's not the backup quarterback ever in a game, in my opinion, because I don't think that makes sense to put him as the backup quarterback. So
in front of Cam or Mac, whoever's going to be the quarterback on any given week, you got the O-line. And now so I thought I'd do a bit of research for the O-line. So I looked up CBS Boston. So probably just a little bit, swaying towards the Patriot way. Just a touch. So they said the Patriots offensive line, an incredible deep unit. Mm-hmm. So, which is good news for, Cam Newton and Mac Jones. So you had David Andrews has re-signed.
Yep.
Another 4 years. So the line at the moment is you got Isaiah Wind, Michael, I don't know what, how do you pronounce his name? Onwenu. You got David Andrews, Shaq Mason, and Trent Brown. Right. So is it exactly what CBS Boston are saying about the offensive line? Is that good?
Yep. I mean, they're going to be top 5 to 10 in the league, in my opinion. I mean, they played well last year. Onwenu was a beast last year at right tackle. He's really a guard more than he is a tackle. So moving him to guard is going to be good. Trent Brown played extremely well when he was here. Then was an All-Pro, I believe, his first year in Oakland, Vegas now, and then struggled the last year, and is now back and is happy to be back. Couldn't contain his excitement when he came back. Like, this is where I love it in New England. This is home. Like, this is where I want to be forever. So, he's happy to be back. He's motivated. I think he's going to be very good this year. And then you have guys like Ted Karras, who, was a starter the last 2 or 3 years, is a backup for the Patriots now. Justin Herron, who played pretty well last year as a rookie, is their swing tackle this year. So they have some solid depth on the offensive line. And I think that the starters are very good. Now, it just depends. Can Isaiah Wynn stay healthy? Is Trent Brown as good as he is? Can Michael Onwenu play as well as he did last year? There are some question marks there, of course, but if things work out the way they should, that's a top 5 to 10 offensive line, in my opinion.
So behind those guys and standing behind the quarterback most of the time is the running back. Now, mate, there's a few there. Exactly, there's a few there. So, look, only twice in the past 4 years, which I couldn't believe this, no running back has had more than 40% of the snaps. And who was the last guy to do that? Quiz question.
Sony Michel?
James White?
No. LeGarrette Blount. LeGarrette Blount. Yeah. So you draft a 6 foot 245 back in Stevenson in the 4th round. Burkhead wanders off. He goes out the door. and he left 26.6% usage rate. So James White is James White, and he's always going to be James White.
Right.
Damien Harris was your best back, is the best back on the roster, and he proved that last year. Like, he ran well last year.
Yeah.
Averaged 5 yards per carry. Only walked away with 2 TDs though, and then you still have, which I still talk about, is the luxury pick of Sony Michel. Like, to me, there's no such thing as a luxury pick in the first round. There's just, it's got to be a good pick. There's no such thing as a luxury.
Yeah.
But he had a good rookie year, dropped off a bit in his second year, and then last year got injured. And was it injured or?
Yeah, he was injured.
Yeah, got injured. Yeah. So how do you see the backfield playing out? Damien Harris, and then you just run the ball hard with Stevenson?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Stevenson's a different type of back. Like, I looked at when they drafted him, I'm like 6 feet 245. The guy's he's a truck,
Yeah.
But he runs a lot like LeGarrette Blount. He reminds me of Blount a little bit in the fact that he isn't necessarily a guy who's just going to run into the line, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. That's not who he is. Like, he can do that at times. He has very quick feet. Like, he was quicker than I expected. He's pretty good out of the backfield. I'm excited about him. Harris has quite a bit of hype right now, and I think deservedly so. I think he's great. I really like him a lot. Sony, man, it's funny with Sony Michel. Sony's body just gave out on him, unfortunately. He's bone on bone in his knees. Like, he just, and the Patriots knew that going in, but he was electric in college. I
was looking at him today. To be honest, I looked at some of his highlights. Just look at the highlights.
Yeah.
And I remember scouting. Yeah,
yeah.
He was. He gets to the outside, and man, he's gone. He great contact balance.
Right.
Yeah,
that's the thing. So it's like, injuries have really cost him. Without those injuries, I think, that would have been a home run pick. As it was a fine pick. I mean, the tough part is that Chubb has been so good in Cleveland that it's kind of like, well, maybe you should have taken that guy instead. But it's, again, the explosiveness from Sony. And I think some of that was back at the end of last year. I think he was finally healthy again, and you saw some of that explosiveness. I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a timeshare. Now, again, they declined Sony's 5th-year option, which means he's on the last year of his deal this year. If he plays well in the preseason this year, I think he's a candidate to get traded somewhere because they do have a lot of guys in the backfield here.
Welcome to the world of the running back. You do your 4 years as a rookie, and then it's like, see you later, bye.
Right, and it's kind of and so that's tough, But I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I think Damien Harris is the guy for me. I think you're going to see him get more than 50% of the carries, just because, and more than 50% of the snaps, I should say, just because he does a lot. He's decent in the passing game. He's a pretty good pass blocker. He does a lot, and so I'm excited to see what he does. Stevenson's an interesting case because they typically do redshirt guys, right? They redshirted Harris. They redshirted James White. They redshirted Shane Breen. They did not redshirt Sony Michel. So, Michel was a pretty good pass blocker when he came into the league. Stevenson is a very good pass blocker now as well.
Good. Yeah.
And so that might be enough to get him on the field as a rookie. And, in that situation, that's where you see Sony Michel get traded because there's no reason to have 3 guys that do the same thing. 2 guys is fine. 3 guys is like, that's extra, especially with one of them on a 1-year deal. So to me, if Stevenson's going to play, then Sony's going to get traded, and that's, it is interesting. By the way, and David's right about him being with 3 Beasts in Georgia. I got a chance to interview Sony his rookie year, and one of my favorite stories that he told that's kind of stuck with me is, with those 3 backs, of course, they were all really good, and he said, we were so competitive there, but he said we got inside. When you got inside the 5-yard line, the rule was you got 1 shot to get in the end zone. Okay. So so we're inside the 5. You get the ball. You get a chance. If you don't get in, you're out. We put someone else in. And so, he's like, it just taught us that if you're down there on the goal line, get your ass in the end zone. Do whatever you got to do to get in. Because if you don't get in, you're coming out and someone else is going in. And so, I thought that was pretty cool. I like that a lot. And so,
there must have been a lines rule for Kerryon Johnson because he's in college. He was really good. He's really good inside, but crap everywhere else.
Right.
Yeah, get him down near the goal line, man. That dude scored every time.
Yeah.
So, so the wide receivers. So we'll keep going with the offense, and I'm trying to. Have you ever had a season? You've always had two guys. Like if you look back at the Patriots, there's always been two. There's always been, an ex guy. There's always been a slot guy. You've always had that. Now, you don't have it as much, I suppose. I don't know who's going to play what role at the moment. You could probably enlighten us with that. But Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar from the Raiders, Kendrick Bourne from the 49ers, who I just think is a good, solid football player.
Yep.
Type of guy Bill likes. Just does his job, gets it done, no fanfare. And you've got, Nikhil Trade Me Harry.
Right.
And then a few guys behind them. But they're the guys going to go with them. We'll throw the tight ends in there in Smith and Henry as well. So how does the whole receiving core pan out?
I mean, it's significantly better than it was last year. So we got that going for us.
Yes.
Of course, Edelman got hurt last year, and so that killed them. Not having to
massive fan. AJ, mate. Any guy that plays that position like he does and gets hammered every time you catch the ball, and you just get up and just go, "Yep, no worries, just throw it to me again. I don't mind."
I mean, he's a psychopath. He's a crazy man.
Oh, no.
I mean, I love listening to the mic'd up things because, like, in the Seattle game, he, like, takes a shot over the middle, and he's like, I love getting hit. Wow. And it's like, oh, my God, dude. There's something wrong with you, But he was awesome. I mean, he was so good. And so, of course, he's now retired after he got hurt last year. Now he's retired. So it's like, okay, who's going to step in and fill that role? AJ mentioned earlier, I love Aguilar. I think Aguilar is a solid pickup for them. He could take the top off the defense. Now, the question is, can we get the ball to him when he does that? But if we can, that opens things up underneath for everybody else, for Hunter Henry, for Jonnu Smith, for, Kendrick Bourne and Jacoby Myers, who I think are going to have similar roles. So it's like, so who's going to be those other guys to kind of break through? Is Gunnar Olszewski now, was an All-Pro last year as a punt returner, but really didn't do much as a receiver. Is he going to be able to make that transition to receiver this year, similar to what Julian Edelman did, right? And so people forget with Edelman is that he, after his rookie contract ran out, signed a veteran's minimum contract with the Patriots because nobody else would offer him anything higher. And then that's the year that he put up big numbers. They went out and signed Danny Amendola to a big contract in free agency instead of Edelman. And then just happened to keep Edelman on a veteran's minimum because no one else wanted him. And then, of course, he becomes the Julian Edelman that we all know now. So it's just one of those things where it's like we don't, it might sometimes it takes guys a few years. I don't know if Olszewski's really in that camp. I don't know if I'm going to put that on him, really, to be honest with you. But but I'm excited about what it's going to look like. I think with the two tight ends as well, I think it's going to be fun. Yeah, I really do. And Jonnu's a guy that. And we talked about this a little bit, AJ, about, Jonnu versus Hunter Henry and who you think is going to be more important in the offense. I think Jonnu is going to be the number one target. I think they're going to throw a million screens to him. I think he's going to run the ball a decent amount. I think they're going to just try to find ways to get him open and get him the ball. And then I think Henry is that prototypical tight end. He's going to run seam routes. He's going to be big in the red zone. Like, he's going to be that guy that's going to move the chains for you, that's going to kind of be your prototypical tight end player, whereas Jonnu's going to be all over the field doing all sorts of different routes. And so they're going to be very different players, I think, at least. They're both decent blockers. They're not great blockers, they're both decent blockers. So it's like, I love the flexibility they have this year to come out, like I said, with three tight ends and either, run power football or split all the tight ends out. And now it's like, oh my God, we brought in our power defense and now they're in shotgun with, one running back standing next to him and everyone's split out wide. And now we got our middle linebacker who can't cover for crap out there in space covering Hunter Henry. Like that's terrible, So it's like, so the matchups are going to be really interesting in finding those different weak spots. That's what I'm looking forward to.
And they're not trying to redo Gronk and Hernandez. That's not what they're doing.
Right. No.
They're not doing that.
Right.
No, they know they can't do it.
Players.
Right. Yeah. No, they can't. They can't. But I do think Jonnu kind of fits that role a little bit. He can kind of do those gadget type things that they did with Hernandez, those quick reverses, those quick tight end sweeps, the screen pass type things. Yeah. I think they can do that a little bit, but Hunter Henry's not Gronk. And, and Jonnu Smith isn't Hernandez either. So it's like, they're not going to do too much of it, but I do think that they're going to play a little bit different roles, the two of them. I'm looking forward to seeing what McDaniels comes up with.
Does it concern you from the fact that both of the guys haven't been used that much by their teams? Like we had the Hunter Henry had that one good season. Was it? Right. Was it his second season at the Chargers?
I think second season. Yeah.
He's been injured a little bit, and Jonnu Smith has never really been used that much at all.
Right.
By the Titans, like what combined last year between the two of them, 83 receptions, 863 yards. Roughly around 10 yards per reception and only 11 TDs between, two tight ends. That like probably in the at least the halfway mark, upper tier of tight ends. Not a lot of usage. Does it concern you that teams are going, you're thinking, how come they haven't used them? Is there a reason for it?
A little bit. I mean, of course, my biggest concern is the injuries. Like Henry, I feel like is injured every year. John, who's kind of had some injury issues. So like, that's my biggest concern is can they stay healthy? But I guess that's the question with everyone can they stay healthy? But when you see guys that, kind of have consistent problems, it's like, these guys need to stay healthy, but I think Tennessee is interesting because Tennessee's offense just wasn't set up to do that. They wanted to run the ball and they give Derrick Henry 30 carries a game. Like they're not, when they targeted Jonnu. I think Jonnu is an interesting case of a guy where like I want.
He's like a gadget guy. Basically, he's like a huge gadget guy.
Right. They were saying he's one of the best players in the league after the catch. Right. Get the ball in his hands and see what he can do. And I think that for the Patriots, like. They're gonna do that. They're gonna do that a decent amount. For Tennessee, they looked at it and said, "Well, let's just give the ball to Derrick Henry. Like, why? Why are we throwing a screen pass to Jonnu Smith or having run in a reverse when we have Derrick Henry in the backfield? It's kind of like let's just do that, and then we'll get him open and run some routes and do some weird things with him there. But like for the most part, he's more of a gadget guy for us. I think the Patriots going to use him more than that. I've said before, like I think they're both going to be tight end ones this year. Top 10 to 12 tight ends this year.
I hope so, man, because I have him in a shitload of fantasy teams. I think I've probably got him on all my rosters, to be honest. I picked him up in the Scott Fish Bowl. So
that's it. There you go.
Yeah.
So I ended up drafting Henry in the Scott Fish Bowl. So I think they're both going to be good. I think they're going to catch a decent amount of passes. And again, can they stay healthy? That's the question, is can they stay healthy? But to me, they're the top two targets when they're throwing the ball.
Yep.
You have Aguilar, and Aguilar, might put up more yards, but I think target-wise, those two guys are going to lead the team in targets.
Okay. AJ, all yours.
To me. Well, listen, I'm going to talk defense, but I'm also going to put them all together. The interesting thing about the defense is I'm always staggered by, and we've mentioned this a few times already, how it's probably unfair of me to say there's no names, on the defense. You don't have a Bobby Wagner in the middle of that defense, but it's always a bloody good defense. Always. Despite, I'm not the biggest fan of Donta Hightower, but he just fits that defense like a glove. And he's coming back. So speaking of which, he was an opt-out last year. He returns. And then you've got for all the, like the Patriots as an organization could be a bit polarizing. You hear guys who leave the Patriots and they just absolutely trash them, as you mentioned before. But then there's guys who just come back, right? So you've got Kyle Van Noy, who's coming back. He was cut by the Finns. Obviously you've got Donta Hightower returning, as we said. Lawrence this is a different front seven here. This is quite a different front seven. This is going to be interesting. Lawrence Guy and Donta Hightower are going to be kind of the seniors of the front seven. Matt Judon, as we mentioned before, free agent signing. Henry Anderson, who was cut by the Jets. That's a nice ad. Godchow, who we mentioned. Christian Barmore and Ronnie Perkins additions. And then you've got guys like, now, these are guys who are very underrated again, and I think are going to step up. Chase Winovich, Josh Uche, who I'm actually a sneaky fan of, and Anthony Jennings. So looking at the front seven, we'll talk about Stephon Gilmore in a second, but looking at the front seven, how are you feeling about it all?
I'm very excited about the front seven. I mean, listen, the linebacking core was one of the worst in the league last year. I mean, they were atrocious last year. And that was due to injuries. That was due to, like some play. Juwan Bentley, I think I like Juwan Bentley. The issue with Juwan Bentley is that he was in the wrong role last year. He's just not that. He's not Dante Hightower. Like he's a Landon Roberts. He's the guy that come in on first and second down and thump against the run and like don't make him think too much. Like that's who he is. He's not an every down linebacker, and that's okay. Like guys, but like when you're playing not the role you're playing and you're thinking too much and you're trying to do more than you can do, you end up looking worse than you really are. And that happened to Van Noy. Matter of fact, that happened to Van Noy when Hightower got hurt. He had the slot on Hightower's run. He looked terrible because that's not what he can do. And then you let him do what he can do, and you're like, oh my god, this guy's pretty good.
He looked bad at the Finns, by the way, too.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what he can do this year. But you bring in Judon. I think Winovich is going to be better. Josh Uche, was hurt for part of the year last year, and I thought played extremely well when he was in there. One of the highest pressure rates per rush in the NFL last year. So like he's a guy that I'm excited to see. The edge is going to be interesting this year because I think they have a lot of athletes. They bring in Ronnie Perkins, and then the defensive line is fascinating because I think they're switching more to like an odd man front. You got Barmore kind of in the middle. Godshaw's a big guy. Lawrence Guy, I think, is going to play a little bit of D-tackle, a little bit of D-end, kind of like he's always done. He's just an underrated guy. Like he's been extremely good for the Patriots. Nobody really knows his name, though, because he's another one of those guys that like just kind of does his job, doesn't rack up a ton of sacks or anything, but like is always kind of there making plays. So like I like him a lot. And I think the front seven is going to be much, much improved from what it was last year. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're getting after the quarterback a little bit more than they were, or more than they have been, I should say. Hightower is one of the best inside blitzers in the league, and they really missed that last year because they weren't able to really pressure the quarterback much last year. So I am really looking forward to what they can do this year. They were awful against the run, and I think that's one of the reasons why you saw them go out and sign Anderson, sign Godshaw, bring back Lawrence Guy.
Right.
Draft Christian Barmore. You draft Ronnie Perkins, who PFF had him rated as it was the only guy in the draft rated as a 90 in pass rushing and run stuffing situations. So
just quietly picked him up in the IDP league.
There you go. So it's one of those things, right? Where it's like, they're clearly focused on stopping the run as well, because they couldn't do that last year. And, in the NFL, you have to be able to stop the pass, of course. And the Patriots have always been good at doing that. But you also have to be able to stop the run, because if you can't stop the run, you can't get up the field, and so like you have to be able to also stop the run when you need to, and they weren't able to do it last year. So let's see if they can do it this year. But I'm excited about what the front seven brings.
Okay, let's talk about that.
So I'm just looking on here, like on the depth chart here, and there's a guy there that at first we thought he's going to show a little bit, and that's Raekwon McMillan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's come from the Finns.
I think so. Yeah.
Was he on the roster last year? Wasn't on the roster last year, was he?
He was at Vegas, actually. He
was at Vegas last year.
I think he was drafted by the Finns originally. He was at Vegas last year.
Right. Last year, so they've let him go. Maybe,
he's
McMillan,
just a guy, but
he's just a guy. But you never know. You get on the Patriots defense, and you get
he'll be all pro. The Patriots.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the type of guys just like, geez, didn't see that coming.
Yes, and you're right. Listen,
you don't know.
Those are the types of guys that come in, the Rob Ninkovich, the Mike Vrabel, the underrated guys that come in that you don't know anything about. And McMillan's a good example of that. I think McMillan is going to really help on special teams. But I think he can certainly play, linebacker. It's going to be interesting to see kind of what they throw out there, because they do have a lot of options. Yeah. They got some athleticism that, like, they were just slow linebackers. They were just slow at linebacker last year.
Yeah, right.
And at a certain point, like their number one linebacker was Adrian Phillips, who's really a safety. Like
I was going to say that's why.
Mess,
That's why you signed Adrian Phillips, because your linebacker core was so average. And I know, Adrian Phillips was a big loss for the Chargers. He was a massive loss. I mean, obviously we had, we've got a pretty good defensive backfield. But, Adrian Phillips was playing linebacker effectively,
Right.
He wasn't playing, he wasn't our strong or, deep safety. He's playing in the middle of the field. That's the strength of Adrian Phillips. And Kyle Duggar, who I'm a big fan of, and I think he's going to do big things. Stephon Gilmore, though, is the big question mark right now. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't come back, that's a bit of a question mark. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's tough, right? You're in a situation right now. J.C. Jackson is their number 2 corner. He signed as a restricted free agent, so he's on a 1-year deal. So the question is, what do you do with J.C. Jackson, and what do you do with Stephon Gilmore? Gilmore's 31. He's getting $7 million this year, which he's not going to play for. They knew that going into it. They knew he wasn't playing for $7 million. They gave him a $5 million advance from this year's salary last year. So they said, okay, let's take 5 years from next year, $5 million from next year, and give it to you this year. Is essentially what they did. The issue with Gilmore is that they can't offer him too much, right? Because they're pretty close to the cap already for next year's cap. So you look at it and say, okay, well, we can't offer you too much because we're going to boost ourselves up over the cap next year. So for me personally, I would love to see them give him 2 extra years. Bump this year up and then give him 2 extra years. I'd love to see that. The question is, what does he want? What does he think he's worth? Right? If he's going to get somewhere approaching 18, 20 million, I'm not touching that. If he's going to be okay with $15, $16 million, I'm absolutely doing that. I think what's going to happen is that the Patriots, I think he's going to be, put it this way, I think almost no matter what, Gilmore's going to be playing for the Patriots this year in 2021. The question is he going to sign a renegotiated deal to get him paid more this year and then be a free agent next year? Or is he going to then sign an extension to have him stick around 2 or 3 more years after this year? That's the big question to me, and I think that's where they're at right now. I think the Patriots, not that they're going to pay him whatever they want, whatever he wants this year, but I think pretty much they're going to pay him whatever he wants this year, right? And so, they're willing to move up his salary this year. What's going to depend on is what does he want in the years moving forward, and are the Patriots willing to meet those expectations? And right now, I don't know the answer to that. I hope that they are. But I don't know. And the problem is, if you don't sign him to a multi-year extension, now you have to make a decision on J.C. Jackson next year. And it's pretty difficult to let him walk if you don't have Stephon Gilmore, right? I don't necessarily want to let J.C. Jackson walk anyways. But, it's hard to, you certainly can't do it if you don't have Gilmore there. And so, it's going to be a difficult decision for them. I'd love to see them sign him to a few year extension. I think that's going to happen. They report the 27th. So I think that's
pretty soon
week from today.
Yeah.
It's a week from today. So I would think at some point in the next week it's going to get done. I don't know, but I would think at some point in the next week it's going to get done. Whatever it is, hopefully it's an extension, but it could just be we'll give you more this year and then we'll kind of see where it goes next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just going through your salary cap now to see who you're paying.
Yeah. Well, we paid a lot of guys in free agency. I mean, yeah. They had, the thing about them is that they had almost no salaries in 2022, 2023. They had 3 people signed through 2023.
Right.
Going into this year.
Yeah. I'm just having a look at your cap hit. And we get down to Aguilar is 6, right? So he's the 6th highest cap hit on your roster at the moment.
He's only 2 years, isn't he? Is it 2?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah.
And then, so you got Aguilar, Hunter Henry, Matt Judon, and Jonas Smith all in a row. All guys that you brought in through free agency in the top echelons of who you're paying.
Right. Well, and that's it's interesting. So we'll see what happens, but I think that's and by the way, I think that makes sense. There's not a lot of superstar players on the Patriots right now.
No, that's what I was
outside of guys that I think Kyle Duggar could be that type of player. He's just not there. It's only his second year, so obviously he's on a rookie deal, right?
Yeah.
So, like, when you don't have a quarterback that's getting paid, then, those guys are low. I mean, so it's going to be interesting to see what they can do. I mean, for me, it's you have to make a decision with Gilmore. I'd love to see him here a few more years because then then it allows you flexibility with J.C. Jackson. If you don't re-sign him to a long-term extension, well, now you have to. You basically have to sign J.C. Jackson next year to whatever he wants because you can't be left with nobody at cornerback. And so you go from an extremely deep class at cornerback to nobody, and you can't let that happen.
Yeah. Now we to wrap things up, we usually ask our guest for a bit of prediction. I've got no idea what I don't know what I would say. I don't know what you would say. I mean, what's your feeling about the year ahead? I mean, record. I mean, how do you think they're going to do?
I think they're gonna finish with at least 10 wins. 10 wins is my floor for the Patriots this year. They won 7 last year with a much worse roster, with a quarterback that couldn't throw the ball, playing a very difficult schedule. This year, they're playing a third-place schedule as opposed to a first-place schedule. They're playing the NFC East, and they're playing the AFC South, I believe.
Oof.
So they have a significantly easier schedule this year than they did last year, plus the extra game. So, like, to me, I'd be shocked if they don't win 10 games. I think they're going to be fighting for the division again. It just depends on what the quarterback can do. If the quarterback is good, then they're going to win 11, 12 games and probably win the division. If the quarterback stinks, well, they're going to be fighting for that 10th win, but they can still get there, I think. I think they're playing enough bad teams they can get there. And look, I mean, rookie quarterbacks, like, they're playing Trevor Lawrence. They're playing Zach Wilson twice. Like, they're playing a lot of rookie quarterbacks this year. And so, like, that's going to be helpful for them. Bill kills rookie quarterbacks. And so, it is going to be helpful for them. We'll see what happens. But I am looking forward to it. I think the AFCs could have 3 teams that win 10 games. And so it's going to be a pretty darn competitive division, I think.
Ooh, bad loss on November 19th. Oof. Not good.
Who do they play on November 19th? G? Is that the Falcons?
Possibly, quite possibly.
The Falcons. That's a game. That's a game I almost. So I'm going to Houston this year to watch the Texans game. I'm pretty excited about it. I try to go to an away game every year. Of course,
we're going to see one win, aren't you? At least.
What do you say?
You're going to see one win.
That's a win.
Yeah, and now I mean, yeah.
You can carve that in stone right now.
Yeah, no kidding, right? But I almost went to the Atlanta game because that Atlanta stadium looks so cool.
Oh,
but it's a Thursday night, and it's like just difficult with the kids and being a teacher. Like,
bloody
it's hard.
kids.
I know, right? It's hard to because then you're like, well, you kind of have to fly in on Wednesday. You can't really fly in on Thursday because what happens if there's a delay and then you miss the game? So you have to fly in on Wednesday, which means you got to pay for the hotel Wednesday night and then Thursday night, and then if you're there, you might as well stay Friday night too. You're gonna miss work on Friday anyway, so then you're like, it's an extra day, and then so I was like, it's just too much. So we're going to Houston. Houston's the Columbus Day. You guys don't celebrate Columbus Day, obviously. We probably shouldn't celebrate Columbus Day either. But
no, you probably shouldn't know that.
But it's Columbus Day weekend, and so I'm going to Houston and missing 0 days of work, which is great. So I'm
Are there any statues of Columbus left?
Yeah,
Did they
probably.
Pull them all down?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Drag them down?
I mean, the problem is that you tell old people we shouldn't be celebrating Columbus. Like, well, why not? And it's like, okay, well,
read some history.
Sure. Man, it's
What do you do, old people? We're going to be there one day. We'll be exactly the same. My kids. I'm not even a boomer, and my kids just call me boomer. I don't think they actually understand what a boomer is.
That's a bit harsh.
How old are your kids, G?
21 and 16.
Oh, okay. So they're old enough to do that stuff.
Yeah.
My kids aren't quite there yet, but I'm sure they'll be there soon.
Yeah, they will be, mate. You got 3 to put up with, only had 2.
Yeah.
And AJ's got 2. AJ's got two girls. He's to put up with one day. So
13 and 10.
A world of pain. Yeah,
13 and 10. So
world of pain.
I'm already. I teach 8th grade, so I'm already not looking forward to the 13 or 15 stage.
Yeah. There's something about, 8th and 9th grade over here. They're the tricky ones,
Yeah.
10th graders, they're fine. All of a sudden, they're just like sane again.
Yeah. It's just,
Well, we actually, over here, Pat, is what they do a lot. Like my and Adrian's kids go to a private school.
Yeah.
Is they actually, a lot of schools now is what they do. They actually take not so much for the girls, but it's more the boys. Is they actually take them out and they have their own school for 1 year just to take them away from everybody else.
Yeah.
Because there's something about that year 9 sort of level.
They're lunatics.
Yeah.
They're insane. I mean, it's, but it's just, and it's like everyone, and it's like, I feel bad for the kids, but I'm like, literally everyone in the world went through this. Like, it's not your fault. Like, it's just, this is just who you are right now. Yeah. And you'll look back in 4 or 5 years and be like, Jesus Christ, remember that? Like when I was, and it's just, like, and unfortunately for these kids is like, they're all over social media too. So they're posting and it's like, oh God, just stay out. Like, so I tell my kids is like, until you're like 17, just stay off the internet.
Yeah.
Like, don't post things. Like, don't say stuff because you're so dumb.
Yeah.
You just say the dumbest crap. And we all said the dumbest crap too. We just weren't posting it online. Like it's just.
Mate, one person heard it because he was a group of friends, and that was it.
Right.
We were lucky.
Now a couple of hundred hear it.
We're like, hey, remember when I said that? And they're like, hey, idiot, that was stupid. And
yeah.
It's just
no one found out about it. Thank God.
Right. So
yeah, but so also someone who we should be watching it. We usually have like each year, like who's going to be someone to watch out for on the Patriots. It can be anybody. It can be someone you think is going to be a riser, or just someone who's just going to like take the next step.
Right. No, we talked about him a little bit. I'll give you 3 guys. How about that?
Yeah.
Defensively, Duggar, I think, is going to be a monster this year. Yeah. I love him. I think Josh Uche is going to be great on the edge as well this year. I'm really.
Is he available in any more IDP leagues? Let me just have a look.
I mean, not in any.
AJ's probably already got him.
Not if you're in a league with me. He's not. Yeah.
Okay.
So I love Duggar. I love what he brings to the table. I was very impressed with the way he played last year. I mean, he went from a D2 school to the NFL and without an offseason and made a pretty seamless transition. So I'm really excited to see what he brings to the table this year. And then offensively, it's Jonnu for me. Like I just think they're going to use him a ton. I think he's going to touch the ball over 100 times. Like I just think they're just going to get the ball into his hands. And I'm very excited to see what Jonas Smith can do this year.
We don't usually do this, but just quick, someone who's going to disappoint.
It's going to disappoint.
We're going to have you in
what?
Yeah, I mean, disappoint.
That's a hard question, G.
No, it's a hard, mate. But it's a hard question for
Listen, this is one of those things. You got to ask the tough questions.
Every team's got them.
Yeah, disappointing this year. I think. Let's go with man. Let's go with I'm gonna go with Kendrick Bourne. I think Bourne. I like him. Yeah. I just think he's very similar to Jacoby Myers, and I think that he has to now beat out Jacoby Myers for that spot. I don't know if he can.
Pick on the new guy in school.
I know.
Dave's got a suggestion here.
McDaniels.
Disappointing.
Yeah, no, maybe harsh. I feel like I don't know if I'm a big McDaniels fan. I sort of feel a little bit like he gets such a boost in the Patriots system, and then
right, he
goes elsewhere and he sort of gets a bit found out.
I mean, what's difficult is that he sucked as a head coach. So he just wasn't a good head coach.
No.
But I think he's proven over time that he's a good offensive coordinator. And again, when you have Tom Brady, it's a lot easier, right? Adam Gase is still coasting off the 1 year he had with Peyton Manning, right? But but I think McDaniels has proven over time that he's a good offensive coach. He makes some bad decisions like all coaches do. The problem is that when you're on the stage the Patriots are, everything is heightened. So when you make a mistake, they're like, this guy stinks, and he's only good because he has Brady. Well, meanwhile, it's like, well, Brady trusted him. Brady loved him. Like, thought he was a great offensive coordinator. And he's still here with the Patriots, and we'll see what happens. You know, I think they were very conservative the last 2 years. I didn't like it. I really didn't like it at all. But I think that they knew that they had a lot of shortcomings and that they weren't aggressive because they knew they really couldn't be aggressive because they didn't have the guys to play aggressive. And I think they do now. And I think you're going to see them a lot more aggressive this year. I think you're going to see a lot more unique sets from them doing some different things. So I'm excited about it. And listen, if they don't, then I'll be the first one to criticize McDaniels because they brought those guys in to do that. And if they're just playing, you know, conservative, like uninventive football, it's like, what are we even doing here? You know?
Right.
Yeah, I think Bill sort of spent last year more like trench warfare, wasn't it? Let's just grind it out. Let's not blitzkrieg Germany, World War II. Let's just grind it out, trench warfare, and we'll win that way.
Right.
Because we don't have the offense to just blow people away.
They didn't. Right, they didn't.
No.
And so it was like you couldn't throw the ball because you literally couldn't throw the ball.
Couldn't throw the ball.
So it was like, so hopefully they're able to do that this year, and then we'll see what happens.
Beautiful.
Pat, before we let you go, just give us a little bit of a preview. What's going on at Pat's Nation Pod? What have you got coming up?
Yeah, so we've been we go live every Wednesday night or so. Well, night for us, it's like middle of the morning for you guys. But we go live every Wednesday night, and we've been talking Patriot stuff. Obviously, looking forward to things. We've also been doing a draft every week. So we've done best free agent signings of the Patriots. We did best helmets in NFL history a few weeks ago.
I love that shit. So, I love doing that.
It's fun. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. So this week we're doing best trades in Patriots history. So
nice.
that one's going to be fun. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But we're having some fun with it. And then we're going to, training camp starts next week. So we'll be live, talking about training camp and getting into it. And of course, Mac Jones versus Cam Newton is going to be the big conversation. But also, what the tight ends look like, what the wide receivers look like, what the defense looks like. So I'm really, really looking forward to training camp this year. This is the first time we've had, a real, like an actual QB discussion.
Yes.
Since I don't even know, 1992 or something like that. It's been that long,
Right.
It's just, and last year a little bit, but nobody was there last year. No fans there or anything like that. Stidham gets hurt 3 or 4 days into camp. So then QB conversation was pretty much over at that point, So this is going to be a very interesting camp for the Patriots, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm very excited about it. They already announced they're having joint practices with the Eagles in Philadelphia. Ooh. And then joint practices with the Giants. They're playing in New York, the final preseason game, but they're having the joint practices in New England, which I think is interesting. I'm not sure why. I'm sure there's something going on with the practice fields in New Jersey or whatnot, but they're having the joint practices in New England, which is pretty cool. So I'm excited about that.
I'm just trying to think. I've gone blank. The quarterback before Brady.
Drew Bledsoe. Yeah, Drew Bledsoe.
I was just going to say.
Yep.
And I loved Drew Bledsoe. He was fantastic. But then, obviously when Brady came on the scene, it was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it's funny. My favorite Patriots game of all time, 1994. I was 10 years old. It was with my dad. They were playing the Vikings, Warren Moon, and the Vikings in 94. And they were down 20-0 with 5 seconds left to go in the first half. And they're lining up to kick a field goal. Matt Barr, who was their kicker at the time. And my dad turns to me and says, if they hit this field goal, they're going to win the game. And I'm like, shut up. There's no chance they're going to win the game. And they hit the field goal, and they won in overtime with a touchdown pass in our end zone. We went nuts, and it was awesome. It's one of the most memorable games ever. But Bledsoe in that game went 45 for 70 in that game.
Oof.
45 for 70.
Wow.
70. So it's
don't worry about the 45, man. Throw the ball 70 times.
70 times. Still the most in NFL history.
From last year.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Still the most in NFL history. I think someone broke the someone broke one of them. I don't know if it was the completion record or the pass attempts record. Someone broke one of them last year, but that record still pretty much stands for the most part. and that was the most fun. And like going into the final drive of the first half, he had attempted like 11 passes or something stupid like that. He was like 5 for 11 going into the first. So he threw the ball like 59 times from the end of the first half to overtime. And that game to me is, and I've seen tickets, and my dad's hasn't seen tickets since '93.
Right. Wow.
And so I've been to, every AFC Championship game that's been played at home. I was at the Snow Bowl. I've been in all those games, but that's the game for me that sticks the most because that's when I fell in love with the team and with the sport, So, Joe Burrow. Okay, so there you go. So I think he's right. 71 attempts. Joe Burrow. Can you imagine? Can you imagine having your rookie quarterback throw the ball 70 times?
You need an ice bath, a serious ice bath.
I'm thinking, man, that's serious ice pack on top of that after that 70. Damn. You're probably not throwing the ball until next Sunday.
Right. Yep. Ice the arm and then go for it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All right. We should let you go anyway, Pat, because you probably got some kids to teach. So
Well,
sorry, man.
It's summer vacation, so whatever.
You are. Yeah, because ours is at Christmas.
Right.
Because you idiots have snow at Christmas for some stupid. We got like 110 degrees here.
Christmas time. Yeah.
That's right. Is it like? That's right. Is it like winter down there for you guys?
Now,
yes.
Mate.
Oh, man.
I mean, it's winter, but it's not actually winter, right? Is it cold?
It's cold.
Yeah, it's cold.
We don't get snow.
We don't have snow though. We don't get snow.
Okay.
So it's probably not cold. What you call cold. It's what we call cold.
It's what, like in the 50s?
It's a different sort of cold. We get Arctic wind, G.
Yeah. It was 8 degrees. So what's 8 degrees?
Oh, that's pretty cold. Yeah. What do you think it is here? Like negative 20? Like, what do you mean?
No, not negative 20. No, 8 Celsius is what is
8
Fahrenheit.
Celsius. Right. You guys go by Celsius.
I don't know what that is.
They're the weirdos
what's
that go
that? Maybe in the 30s, high 30s, low 40s.
Yeah, so that's not bad. Yeah, that's pretty cold. It's pretty cold.
Yeah. Well, I open the front door, man. I feel it. Let me tell you.
It's funny when you think about, America just doesn't. I mean, we don't use the metric system.
46.
Hey, there we go. Thanks,
Dave. Champion.
Appreciate it. We don't go by the metric system. We don't use Celsius. Why would we make anything easy? Like it's just
you drive on the wrong side of the road. It's like, hey, we just want to be different.
Well, there's one of my favorite movies, and it's so stupid, but one of my favorite movies is Penguins of Madagascar. I have little kids, so we watch all these, like, and there's just one scene where they're like falling out of a plane. It's an animated movie, but they're falling out of a plane, and he's like, 600 meters, 500 meters, and he looks at him, he's like, Kowalski, speak English. He's like 672 feet, 493 feet. It's so stupid. I'm like, it's so great because it's just like, the meters, it would be so much easier. Everything's by tens and hundreds, and we're counting by 12s, and like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah, I don't know.
But,
I found that when I travel around and you look at like the distance, and we have kilometers here, which are, I think a kilometer is what? I don't know, 600 yards to over 1,000 yards. That's the difference between
something like that.
If you understand, So when I look at the distance, I go, man, it's not 47 miles. That's not too far. We'll be there, and here you'd be here in no time. I'm thinking, and you're driving like an hour later, and go, well, how fucking far is this joint? Right. How far is 47 miles? It must be. It's just I found it so annoying. I couldn't get my head around the miles thing because I just kept thinking kilometers all the time.
It's just one of those things where it's like, what? Like a kilometer is 1,000 meters,
right?
Yes. Like 1,000 meters. That makes sense. Like a mile is 5,280 feet. It's like, where do we come up with that? Like, why the hell 5,280? Like, what? What's such an arbitrary number?
What are you doing in gallons? Like we have a liter, which is 1,000
makes no sense. Gallons
and
makes no sense. I'm like, quarts and pints. Like, well, how much is a pint? I'm like, I don't know how much a pint is. It's like, it's a pint. I don't know. Like, it's like,
you got $1 a dollar,
right?
And a quarter is 25 cents. Like, that was easy. Except I paid $100 for a pack of gum because all your notes are the bloody same colour.
Did you really?
The person didn't pick me up. And I gave them $100. I just turned around and walked out. And they just go, hey, how good is this? And then when I've gone, reached in my wallet to get the 100, I've got a $1 note in there.
Oh,
so wrong.
No, that's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. So,
Yikes.
Man.
Yeah, dishonest Americans didn't tell me. Heard the accent, you go, mate, suckers born every minute. So anyway, that was actually on the way to the airport to leave.
Oh,
so
was
probably,
it? Oh.
Yeah.
Where were you? Where were you?
New York.
Oh, New York.
New York
State.
State.
That'll happen in New York, yeah.
Yeah. Probably my family do it to me in New York.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, but we should let you go anyway.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Good luck in the Scott Fish Bowl.
I appreciate
good luck
it.
to the Pats.
Thank
Any
you,
fantasy
guys.
leagues you're playing?
Yeah, I appreciate it. We're having fun. We're having fun with it. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I see the group chat because unfortunately the Aussie guys come through my feed as well. So not only am I getting my feed for my group chat, which has been fantastic, but I'm also getting yours as well.
There you go.
So there was a time when AJ got deleted. That was me doing it by mistake, and then he got added back into the group chat. And I got sick of hearing you guys talking.
That's great.
What
division are you in?
Rush.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Rush division. So we've got I think there's about 4 or 5 of us that still keep up the chat now, and I'm about to go sometime soon onto a Mexican podcast.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
So that'll be interesting. So you've got a Mexican podcast with an Australian guy talking about American football.
There you go.
So we'll see how that goes.
That's great.
So,
love it.
Excellent. All
Pat,
right,
thank you so much for coming on with us. And I'll just give a shout out for your Twitter handle, which it took me a little while to work out that obviously Pat Lane, so plain underscore Pats. Plain underscore Pats, and obviously give Pats Nation Pod all as one word, a follow, and they can find other things that you do because you do a lot. But they can find all of those things via your Twitter handle. But it's been fantastic chatting to you, Pat, and obviously we're going to keep the chat up over the season with Scotty Fish. But thank you so much for joining us, and bring on the NFL season.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. In 1 week, we're a week away from training camp. This is it. It's all we can ask for,
Well, there's always a bit of this is sort of like the quietest time of year, isn't it? And then once training camp kicks off, then we're going to get news just every day.
That's
fantastic.
it. Now it's just like
one-handed catches and stuff like that. This guy's going to be great. Like no one's ever seen a one-handed catch before at training. It's like
right.
Okay, whatever.
And listen, this year too. It's like now we can finally go. There'll be fans in the stands again. People are, people can't wait. It's great. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited. I'm excited about the season, and we're like a week away, and I just can't wait. So
excellent,
awesome.
Well, thanks so much, Pat.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it very, very much. Your day, man. We will let you go and enjoy your day, and we'll go to sleep.
All right, all right, guys. Take care.
Thanks so much. Okay,
all right.
See ya.
See ya.